All right, finding the values of k in the equation x squared plus kx plus 4 is equal to 0, such that it has two equal real roots. Okay, so we're trying to figure out on our calculator what value of k, what k would have to be in order for this to have two equal real roots, or one solution. So we want to relate this to our discriminant. So we know for two equal real roots to exist, our discriminant value, b squared minus 4ac, would have to equal 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in my b, a, and c value into this and then solve for the unknown. So in this case, my b value is k. So I have a k squared minus 4 times a is 1 times 4 is our c value. And I'm going to make this equal to 0. So what this has created is it's created a kind of another quadratic equation, which is x squared minus 16. So to solve this equation, right, you can either factor this using difference of squares, or we could simply bring 16 to the other side of the equation and then take the square root. So my k value would have to be a positive 4 or a negative 4 in order for this quadratic to have one solution. All right, what if we wanted it to have two different real roots? Well, similarly, our discriminant is no longer going to be equal to 0, but it has to be greater than 0. It has to be a positive number. So I'm going to substitute these same values in, and I'm going to get the same expression, which is k squared minus 16. All right, little trick here. Because we're working with a quadratic inequality, we can't just say solve this the same way and say k would have to be greater than plus or minus 4. So what you actually have to consider is you have to visualize this quadratic as a parabola and figure out, well, what points on the parabola are the function bigger than 0. So I'm going to factor this. And so what we call these x-intercepts, we call these critical numbers. So our critical values are a positive 4 and a negative 4. So now as a sketch, I'm going to visualize this graph. I'm going to sketch this quadratic. So it has an x-intercept at positive 4. It has an x-intercept at negative 4. And because my a value is positive, this graph is going to open up. Okay, so here's the sketch of this quadratic. So now what we're looking for on this graph is we're looking for when this function is bigger than 0. And so when we talk about the function and we're talking about the y values, when are the y values larger than 0 on this graph? Well, our y values, when are they larger than 0, is going to be everything above the x-axis. So looking at this graph is going to represent this branch of my curve or my parabola and this branch of my parabola. So now you want to talk about your x values in relationship to these parabolas, or these branches. Well, my x value from here over is going to be smaller than negative 4. So my k value would have to be smaller than negative 4. Or this branch tells me that my x values are getting bigger than 4. And that would be your solutions for k. So in order for k to have two different real roots, this k value in your equation has to be a number smaller than negative 4, or it has to be a number bigger than a positive 4. All right, so then lastly, let's talk about this no real roots. Well, no real roots is similar to the last question. The only difference is that my discriminant now needs to be a negative. It's going to be a smaller than 0. So I'm going to get the same expression, which is k squared minus 16 is less than 0. I'm going to get the same critical values. Okay, so critical values, which are the x-intercepts, are a positive 4 and a negative 4. Again, looking at this graph, right, x-intercept negative 4, x-intercept positive 4, this graph, so it's the exact same graph as what we just talked about, but now we're looking for our y values that are smaller than 0. Okay, so where does that occur? It occurs this part of the graph. So I'm going to circle this, and now I'm going to talk about my x values. Well, this part of the graph, my x values are increasing from negative 4, but decreasing from 4. So my k value would have to be greater than negative 4, but smaller than 4. So it's going to be in between these two values. Okay, and that is how you find the values of k such in order for these three things to exist.